Hi, friends. Welcome. Welcome to this session, 100X Live with me. And I have with me Pratik and Sneha from Decadenz. And this is the first session in the series, Journey with 100X and beyond that we've started for you, especially you founders and investors who can, interact, see our videos and understand our portfolio companies' perspectives, the founders, and this will be a forum which we will probably try to use every week to bring to you, our portfolio companies one by one, and get the views of the founders on their industry, their respective business areas, their respective verticals, segments, what's happening new in the segment. So this session is the first one. So welcome you friends. I'll kind of quickly trigger off the session right now, and then we will do the question answers. I will be asking the questions to Pratik and Sneha, and they will be, answering them one by one. So Pratik and Sneha, just wanted to kick off the session with one question that comes to my mind is that when a venture is started, when a startup is started, it's typically one of the two guys, if there are two co-founders, who gets the idea. So between you two, who actually got the idea of starting Decadence, and how did you come up with the name? How did you two meet each other, and what were some of the complementary skills that you both thought each of you has? So please feel free to share our thoughts.
So thank you so much, Yagnesh, for having us. It's a great initiative to actually engage with founders and put it all on a platform to essentially share our journeys real time in terms of both how we have evolved after we started our journey with the venture and with 100x, and also put it out there to help other founders and also give them some perspective. So, in terms of how we came up with the idea came to me, but the story is long. So, both Sneha and I, we have essentially been, uh, uh, we have known each other for a long time. We have been batchmates at B School. We were colleagues as management consultants at BCG. And even before we started this venture, we had worked together on multiple projects, especially with consumer brands. We were involved with new category business models. We were involved with new city launches. So we were deeply passionate about brands, and we were actively looking at the entire consumer landscape in India getting disrupted by multiple challenger brands across categories. So we had this at the back of our head that brands are something which end up leaving legacies for centuries, and we were greatly inspired by a lot of brands. As far as decadence and the indulgence space is concerned, the idea came to me in the sense that I have been having a very very big sweet tooth from as far as back I can remember, and what I realized is that I did not really end up adopting or routinizing the legacy brands available in India, though I liked multiple imported chocolates, imported snacks, who ended up innovating on quality, on format, on attribute, and ended up appealing to you. That sort of connect had been missing from probably the 90s days, wherein we used to have a Cadbury stocked in our fridge and we used to have it post dinner. So that sort of got me curious in terms of identifying indulgence as a space which I can look at more closely, and we realized that it's a huge space. It's a $10 billion market with two sides to it. One is the legacy brands, be it the chocolate or the ice cream brands, the Cadburys, the Nestle's, the Amuls of the world, and the other side there's a huge burgeoning mithai and local dessert, local ice cream parlor industry, which essentially is very much unorganized. Uh, we realize there's a big gap in between for a brand to emerge which connects with the millennials and Gen Z, and essentially solves for excitement around new categories, excitement around the brand connect, and also has a unique model in terms of instant gratification. So, so that was my hypothesis to begin with. I bounced it off with Sneha. Uh, she found it very, very intriguing, large, undisrupted space with the possibility of creation of a challenger brand. So what we did is essentially ended up running a very large exercise in terms of surveying millennials and Gen Z segments. We did dipsticks, we did focus groups, we did depth calls, and we realized that primarily there are three things we are looking to solve for. One is adoption. What had been missing was the entire excitement around new categories. Because what primarily we were observing is while legacy brands were focusing a lot on incremental innovation to suit their supply chains, most of the innovation was coming from a lot of local players who were not able to sustain that because of issues around quality, hygiene, consistency. And secondly, the issue is around the brand connect. If you look at top brands here, mostly they are focused on the GTMT channel and they are focused on connecting around gifting celebration occasions. We, on the other hand, wanted to directly build a brand that gets that excitement around chocolates, around snacking, around indulgence back. And we found there is a brand positioning gap to look at. And the third thing we realized is that we are a patient, an impatient rather, segment, be it millennials, Gen Z. We want on the fingertips instant gratification, and there is a delivery model wherein we can make our products, make brand, indulgence
Yeah,
brand available
I think.
instantly.
Yeah, so I think we'll come to the delivery model a bit later in our conversation. So, who amongst both of you is a like a branding person? Who thought Decadence is a name which should resonate with our consumers? The whole branding aspect, or did you really hire somebody? Because in the life of a startup, this whole branding is very important, right from day one, right? So, did Sneha think about this name, branded it? I mean, how was the experience? Just like very shortly, and then we'll move on.
So Sneha came
So
up with the name,
yeah,
and
Sneha
essentially,
came up with the name. Okay.
I take care of branding and marketing and Decadence. What we realized was, over and above what Pratik pointed out in terms of, millennials really lacking options or avenues to indulge themselves and keep routinizing it. What we also felt was there was a big, gap in terms of association of millennials. So the connect with legacy brands was, dying day by day, and we felt that, we could spice up the space by introducing something more quirky, more millennial, something which is more relatable. So I came up with the name Decadence, which essentially means, self-indulgence, and that is the entire philosophy around which our brand is centered. We actually, urge people to indulge in the joy of missing out with our brand and our brand philosophy. So in this day and age of FOMO, we believe that, happiness or the joy of little things or just, stepping back and looking at just indulging in the little things or the little joys in life is a philosophy that would gel very well with millennials, and that is what really got us all started. And everything from the branding to our communication to our packaging is very quirky, very millennial, very conversational. We use hashtags a lot when it comes to communicating with millennials because this is a lingo that they understand and they connect with. So that was essentially the whole thought process.
Absolutely. No, you guys have done a wonderful job, I must say, without any bias, because I immediately connected with the brand name and it resonated very well. If I were a millennial, I would just jump at it and start trying it. So, and people in our office also kind of, lapped up when you kind of first gave us our samples. I remember that. So, it's done. I mean, the initial kickoff phase, I think, is always exciting, but the second thing that happens to a startup is that harsh reality sets in. You start facing some of the challenges once the name is done, everything is set, we're all highly excited. So tell our viewers something about the initial challenges you guys faced and how did you overcome them.
So essentially the challenges we encountered were twofold. One were the usual, 9 hours of challenges that a typical startup goes through, and the other specifically were around creation of a new category. So our first category, which is essentially a spoonable chocolate fudge, is a cross between a chocolate bar and an ice cream. So the entire challenge existed around educating consumers around what this new category is, why they should give it a try, and why is it more exciting than the usual go-to options when it comes to indulgence. So that was essentially a very big challenge that we sought to overcome a lot through marketing, through just campaigns with influencers, bloggers, all on social media, so that consumers get that hey, a new category has been introduced in the market and they should give it a try. Other than that, of course, as all startups face their own set of challenges, we too had our own, right from conceptualizing the category and the formulation, getting on board the right experts to help us with the new product development, helping iterate on the product, getting quick consumer feedback, setting a loop actually so as to get a recurring feedback mechanism set for our consumers. So our product went through a lot of trials, and as we speak, every 2 months, 3 months, there are constant refreshes happening at the back end. Other than that, of course, the entire challenge around finding the right pricing strategy, the pricing SKU mix, getting licenses for the business. Those are the sort of challenges that we sought to overcome with, of course, hard work and a little bit of hustle at our end.
Fair point. So I want to ask you one very important question that happens everywhere. I don't know many people talk about it or not, but did you guys have fights during this time? I mean, did you really, challenge each other, disagree? I'm sure you must have, but did you really voice it out? And how does this happen? Typically in a co-founder situation, people generally don't agree to everything. And there's a point where somebody has to take a call and move on. So how was that interaction between you two?
So while we have a very, very similar background, we both are engineers, we both come from the same B school and worked with the same firm. We probably, on every aspect, we interpret data differently and we have different perspectives on the same issue. So what helps us is that we pretty much go to the whiteboard and we list the pros and cons out and just focus on the outcome at hand. And typically, a logical discussion between both of us throws of the next course of action. So we pretty much whiteboard it out, and that's how we end up taking most of the decisions.
Fair point. I think that's a very balanced way of doing things. So tell us, I mean, you quickly into your journey, you came across a lot of accelerators, a lot of funds. You started looking for your seed funding, and then you met us actually. So tell us a little bit about that experience while you're looking for your first check, and then basically then we kind of met you guys sometime last year in Q3 or early Q4, and we kind of took off with you. We liked you guys. How was your experience working with 100x, as well as other funds that you were talking about? And then what were the learnings during the diligence process? And then also talk a little bit about your experience after the VC pitch day that we had.
Sure. So the experience has been very, very amazing, not just in terms of the sort of support, the door opening, and the mentorship provided, but just from the get go. So I actually met Sanjay Mehta during an event in Delhi, even before 100x had launched, and I had a discussion with him, and he talked to us about 100x, the plans with iSafe, and how it will help a lot of startups in the early stage ecosystem. And I was very much sold on the idea of the iSafe, not getting into complicated term sheets so early on, and just being focused on growing the business with the support ecosystem that 100x created. And that sort of got us interested in 100x, and we ended up being part of the 100x portfolio. Post that, it's been very good, not just in terms of investor connects, be it the December India pitch day, or post that more recently the global pitch day. It's essentially been door opening, not just in terms of investor connects, but business connects as well. Uh, and just the whole feeling that 100x is probably not an investor, it's more of a partner who's looking to grow, understand the business, and basically work with us rather than just provide money. That's the whole mentorship element, which has been very much helpful. So all in all, it's been an amazing journey, and we look to essentially continue to gain and continue to grow with 100x.
Sure. Well, thanks for that perspective. Typically, the whole endeavor here at 100x is trying to make that most difficult journey of getting that first check with founders that that eludes them, to make it a little more simpler in their lives, because they're anyway fighting with a lot of battles. So tell me, now we have another battle on our hand, right? We now have COVID, which was unprecedented. Nobody knew about it, and everybody was just stuck with it. So, and I know your business would have suffered to a certain extent, from broad it was pre-COVID. So how have you dealt with that? Talk a little bit about that and how you kind of overcame? Did you go undergo through any pivots? Uh, any new ideas of go to market? How is that being coming along?
So, yeah, COVID has been a game changer. For some industries, it has disrupted positively. Industries like EdTech immediately saw a 3x jump. Some industries like hospitality have essentially been uh, probably set back by a couple of years. For us in the consumer space, we look at it as a demonetization moment, especially for a brand which has been a digital first brand, which has been essentially acquiring and retaining customers on online channels. We look at it as a moment which will change consumer behavior. We are looking at possibilities wherein consumers will order food in more often instead of going out. That fundamental behavior is something which will change for the long term, and it will essentially benefit the entire consumer products, especially F&B industry, to essentially move online. Right now, talking more about indulgence as a space, it's a huge market, but a mid-single digit, 5 to 6% of it has been online. Due to COVID, over the next 12 months itself, we are expecting 20 to 25% of this industry to be online. And essentially, we are expecting to be beneficiaries as a digital first brand to capture a large opportunity. Of course, in the short term, due to COVID, there have been lockdowns, there have been containment zones, there have been curbs on logistics, on interstate movements. So, as far as our presence in Delhi NCR is concerned, we have faced a supply side hit, with close to two-thirds of our dark warehouses being non-operational during the lockdown. And it's gradually being eased out, and we are looking at going back to the business as usual case over the next 2 to 3 weeks. But it has been a hit on the demand side, though. We, on the same store level, we have not suffered so much, because we have seen a shift of consumer behavior who want indulgence, and they are ordering in brands that they trust, and essentially looking to have multiple products. In terms of what we did uh, during COVID, we leveraged that as an opportunity to do two things. One is to relook at our entire go-to market. We essentially have shifted to a completely asset-light variable cost model, wherein we neither own nor operate our dark warehouses. We essentially partner with local entrepreneurs who are running cloud kitchens in a particular market. They end up stocking and dispatching our products for a variable margin, making it a win-win situation for both us and the particular entrepreneur involved. Especially in these times, we have been told that we have actually helped the survival of some of our partners, because they have suffered a big hit, especially the restaurant industry, with them not being allowed to get footfalls or even suffering with online orders. So that's one that we are playing in the ecosystem, and that pivot has helped us remove fixed costs from our go-to market. The other thing which we have done is, while we have created a signature category of fudges, and we are known as a brand which is a fudged up brand. We got it from our consumers that they are willing to essentially look at more Decadence products, which are part of other categories as well, especially around this time, wherein going out has been curbed, and online indulgence is something which consumers are looking to indulge themselves with. We have essentially launched two more categories. One is a chocolate monster bar, which is a high protein, low sugar, low preservative bar, and the other is a gourmet popcorn tub, which is a guilt free snack. So we completely used this as an occasion to accelerate some of our product launches, and the response has been great from the consumers. New products have been getting rave reviews, great repeats, and I mean, the contribution is has grown to be significant in terms of our overall portfolio.
Sure. No, I think that's a useful perspective. I really like the way you guys have moved out to a capex free, opex free model and start to partner with partners, which is a brilliant idea. I think moving to that model should work wonders over the period. But yeah, thanks for that update. Tell me, each founder again, post the seed funding, everyone is looking for pre-series A kind of funding. So I know you've been talking to founders, investors, angel investors, family offices, VC funds. How has been the experience since that? I mean, in terms of pre-COVID and now against that COVID has happened, how has been the investor reactions? Have you really seen a little bit tightening of the valuations across when you talk to people? And has that really changed a little bit on your side as expectations as well? I would like a perspective on that as well.
Sure. So first up, there is a perception that because of COVID, investors, be it VC firms, family offices, they have stopped writing checks. That's not the case. Actually, investors are a very very smart segment. Just like founders like us are trying to use this crisis as an opportunity to move to a better business. Investors are using this as an opportunity to find great businesses which may have been impacted due to short-term considerations and get them at a certain discount to their pre-COVID valuations. So that has been a similar trajectory with us. Our engagements are still strong, but of course, on both sides, there has been a certain realignment in expectations on valuations, which is kind of fair because of certain uncertainties thrown up by COVID. So all in all, I mean, I would say that if we are in the right space at the right time with the right business model and have a proven product market fit, or that would be the case with any founder who would have that sort of space. I don't think there is any reason to believe that investors are not engaging. You may just want to realign valuation expectations, and that should more or less take care of the engagement.
No, I think fair point made. We too kind of see this space as a very interesting place to be in, and we are continuously kind of evaluating deals. And this is exactly what happening right now. We're putting more efforts into identifying deals, and yes, the deal, though at the diligence level, it is taking now more time than probably ever before because investors have to figure out whether this particular brand, this particular startup, will it really survive, and there is growth only if there is survival, right? So typically you need to survive first, and then once you are survived, once you have lots of runway, I mean at least 8 9 months in our opinion, is when you actually start thinking about growth and how to utilize your resources very efficiently so that the investor can have that confidence
Yeah.
to kind of say that these guys will be around for a while, and so let's back them. They're intelligent with their frugal with their money, very very efficient with their capital utilization and allocation. So I think those are things that today people are looking at. So I also both of you wanted to get a little bit of sense of what's your advice to the founders who are currently looking out for raising funds, just like you guys are, I'm sure, but just a couple of things that you may want to advise the founders from both of you. I mean, one by one, whoever wants to take this first.
Sure. Sneha, do you want to take this?
Well, my advice to founders would be to, the metrics have completely shifted post COVID. The focus, in fact, has remerged on, unit economics and profitability rather than, just vanity metrics, which were floating around for quite some time now. So my only advice would be to, build out a business that is sustainable in the longer run, focus on capital efficiency and find asset light ways of, hustling around and building a model which really clicks in the current time. So we have to reimagine a lot of business models, and hence COVID has been a testing time for startups, but only stronger players are going to emerge out of this.
Sure.
I think you want to go.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Uh, uh, so she covered the business aspect. I'll just cover the founder aspect. So internally, and it's not an advice, it's something we have lived through as a journey. As long as we believe in the vision, we believe in the idea, there will be a lot of ups and downs. But as long as the founder believes that he can build a big business, he or she will be in a position to uh, get through a lot of ups and downs with the support of partners, with the support of the ecosystem, and of course the right things will fall in place at the right time, be it investors or be it the growth in the business metrics. But as long as you are not you are doing it for vanity, then it might be tough. If you are doing it for building the business, if you want to achieve some vision, then it's something which probably in these times you can live through it and you can essentially emerge from it.
No, interesting. I think that's very valid points of view coming from both of you. And I just like to add here that investors always like people who are long-term committed. It's not just the fancy of starting something, making some temporary impact, and then just the flavor of the day, and you participate and then find out that this is probably not going to sustain long term. So I think a lot of those thoughts are very important. I hear you guys. I mean, it's very important, and glad to know that also one of our investor friends who's a veteran in the indulgence space has kind of showed confidence in you and has put in his check in the company. Uh, so I think that boosts a lot of confidence, right? Having senior industry experts on your board as an advisor, I think also helps, and I think that I'm sure you are banking on his kind of picking his brains now and then in terms of the industry outlook and stuff. I think these are things that probably founders and others don't really get so easily, uh, and that's when that is what should be maximum exploited. Your investors, your current investors, your current advisors, mentors, you've got to exploit them completely, fully. So that's what we've seen in our portfolio of class one, where you participated. We had 20 companies. We've seen some companies utilize us to the hilt. I mean you can so aggressively utilizing us, each member of us, each 5-member team we are, each 5 of us were drawn into different directions. Each one of us has separate expertise, and I know founders really talk to each 5 of them. And then when you talk in a team call about that company, okay, yeah, you've been speaking with this company as well. So the whole trick is here to kind of utilize the base that you have, the kind of investors you have, the advisors you have. I think that's very, very important. And each founder does find someone or the other. It's just the extent that you can utilize them. I think that's one very valid point I would like to make here for the benefit of those founders who are watching. And okay, so I think we've come to the end of the session. I think it was brilliant, Pratik and Sneha. Thanks for taking out time, and again wishing you all the best with your venture. I know the pivot that you've done will work wonders. Your commitment to the business is immense. Both of you are smart founders, so I'm sure you're gonna make it long. And our best wishes to you as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Yagnesh. It was great.
Take care.